Wharton are both having trouble joining by the link. Commissioner Dishner has it where it's just spinning, and Mayor Wharton is planning to join by phone in just a moment.
Great. Sean, I wonder if for the sake of time, I know you've got a legal notice you've got to read at the outset. Do you maybe want to go ahead and do that?
Sure. In Executive Number 16, extended by Executive Orders 34, 51, 60, and 65, Governor Bill Lee suspended Tennessee's open meeting laws as necessary to allow a governing body to meet by electronic means and conduct essential business under certain conditions if the governing body determines that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. The conditions are live access to the meeting by the public, if possible, no adjustment to existing quorum, meeting notice, or voting requirements, clear notice to the public of the meeting agenda and how to access the meeting in a manner reasonably accessible to members of the public. Each part of the meeting subject to the Open Meetings Act must be audible to the public. Each member participating electronically must be able to simultaneously hear each other and speak to each other during the meeting. Any member participating electronically shall identify the persons present at the location from which the member is participating. Each member participating electronically must be provided before the meeting with any documents that will be discussed at the meeting with substantially the same content as the documents actually presented. All votes taken during a meeting shall be by roll call vote, and electronic participation allows a member to vote but does not make a member eligible for a per diem. The Tennessee Higher Education Commission has ensured that each of the required conditions have been met. For purposes of this THEC meeting, we are using WebEx, which accommodates up to 1,000 participants. Commission staff were given a link that allows them to participate in the meeting. All other attendees were given a link that allows them to watch the meeting but not unmute themselves. However, attendees will be able to raise their hand during the meeting and be unmuted by the host for participation as needed. Notice of the meeting, agenda, materials, WebEx link for those participating via webinar, call-in number for those participating by phone only, and applicable codes were posted to the THEC website and emailed to commission members on Friday, December 11th, 2020. All votes will be by roll call, and there have been no changes to existing quorum, meeting notice, or voting requirements. Each member will introduce themselves and list all persons at their respective location. Lastly, members will be considered present for voting purposes, but not for purposes of a per diem. All conditions listed in Executive Order Number 16 having been met, the only remaining item needed to ensure compliance with the Open Meetings Act and Executive Order Number 16 is for the Commission to determine that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Chairman Cope, that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much. Ms. Jennings, just from a procedural standpoint, do we need to have a roll call first and then vote on the motion of the necessity?
I think that might be best.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, please call the roll.
Chairman Cope?
Present in Murfreesboro by myself.
Commissioner Dishner? Commissioner Tobin?
I am present. I'm in Dover, Tennessee by myself.
Commissioner Moser? Commissioner Moser, I think that you are muted.
Present by myself.
Commissioner Scarlett?
Present by myself in this room, but there's people in the house.
Commissioner Stafford?
I am present in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm by myself.
Commissioner Watson?
Present in Memphis, Tennessee by myself.
Commissioner Winton?
Present in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I am alone.
Commissioner Morrison?
Present in Nashville, Tennessee, and like Tara, alone in this room.
Secretary Hargett?
Present here at the state capitol, and I have all the documents I need as well.
Commissioner Wharton,
Tennessee, I'm alone.
Comptroller Wilson,
I'm right here at the state capitol. Ain't nobody want to be with me.
Treasurer Lillard,
I vote aye. I'm in Fayette County.
Commissioner Hassler.
President of Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm alone in this room.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry. I think, was someone speaking?
Commissioner Dishner.
Oh, great. Good. Hi, Nancy.
Hello, everyone.
I think the first order of business, and then we'll address obviously why we're here, but I think we need to adopt necessity. And to that extent, I make that motion, Shauna. Is there a second?
Second, Wharton.
Okay, Mayor Wharton with the second. We'll need a roll call, please, ma'am.
Chairman Cope,
Aye.
Commissioner Dishner,
Aye.
Commissioner Coben,
Aye.
Commissioner Moser,
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett,
Aye.
Commissioner Stafford,
Aye.
Commissioner Watson,
Aye.
Commissioner Winton,
Aye.
Secretary Hargett,
Aye.
Commissioner Wharton,
Aye.
Comptroller Wilson, Comptroller Wilson, Comptroller Wilson, Treasurer Lillard,
Aye.
Commissioner Hassler.
Aye.
Chairman, you have 13 ayes.
Very good. The motion is carried. So we're now business. And as everyone knows, obviously, we're here to address Director Krause's resignation, which was effective as of last Friday. And we obviously currently have a vacancy in the Office of Executive Director at THEC. So there's one item on the agenda today, and that's to consider the appointment of an executive director. And that item obviously is wide open for discussion, and I hope we have some good discussion on that. We obviously need to address the vacancy and do something on an interim basis, and then talk about what we want to see in terms of a selection process going forward. So with that brief introduction, the floor is open to anyone who would like to comment.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to comment. I would like to make a lot of comments, as a matter of fact. I want to talk to the other commissioners about Dr. Emily House. She is our Deputy Executive Director. For 18 months, she's been groomed to step up to the Executive Director's position. During the past 15 months, I know 3 states in the country have contacted her and asked her to come and interview for the very job of the SHEO at that state. Tennessee sits in the #1 SHEO position in the whole country. We're very visible, and as such, both Mike and Dr. House have been on everybody's radar. In all 3 of those cases, it was the state of Maine, Rhode Island, and Kentucky. She was the top candidate, and I even wrote letters of recommendation for her, and she turned them down. She is such a known quantity. I've talked to a couple of presidents who know her and worked very closely with her over the years. She has their full support. Consequently, I would like to nominate Dr. Emily House. I move, pursuant to TCA 49-7-205A1, the Commission selects Dr. Emily House for the position of Interim Executive Director of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission under the existing term.
Okay, I think Commissioner Coben, the last part of your motion, I didn't hear.
Let's see, interim executive director of the Tennessee Higher Education Commission under the existing terms and conditions of the position.
Very good. There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
To clarify,
Okay.
the motion is for an interim role?
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry, who made the second? Was that Treasurer Lillard?
No, it wasn't me.
No. Okay.
Mr. Hassler.
Oh, Commissioner Hassler, thank you. Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. The floor is open then on that question. The motion that's pending to appoint Dr. House as interim director. The floor is open.
I have a question, and I think it's more of a process question. I don't know what's happening here, but my question is, how long is the interim process? Like, what are the next steps after we appoint her as interim? If assuming that happens, what happens next?
Well, Dakasha, that's a great question. One thing I was going to mention, and obviously it's up to this commission to decide, but I think it's important that we sort of define the scope of what we want to do going forward with this position. And one thing I was going to suggest after we decide this particular motion is to consider asking Tara Scarlett to take the reins in the laboring or on the selection process to the extent there needs to be one, and report back to us at the January meeting with a recommendation on what a selection process would look like.
And then Evan, is there a time limit on this interim position? Do we need to set that now, or are we leaving it open-ended until we have the selection criteria?
So there, and I'll ask, but as I understand it, there are no limitations based on the length of time that an interim director can serve. That position serves, whether interim or permanent, as an at-will employee and at the pleasure of this commission. So there's no term of office. There's no other really parameters placed on the timing of it. I do want to say, and this is just a personal opinion, that I think for the sake of maintaining the momentum that we have as an organization, as a state, in terms of being recognized as the leader in higher education in the country, I think it's going to be important that we limit the time frame and scope of this so that we don't have an agency that is set adrift, but rather that we maintain the momentum that we have now. But to answer your question directly, as I understand it, there really is no limitation on how long that process takes.
But nothing precludes us from placing a limitation, or at least a target date at the outset as to when we would like to have some sort of a process come to completion.
That's exactly right.
I would recommend that and I'm happy to make a motion, but I would recommend that we set a time limit of at least no later than June 30th of 2021 to complete a selection process. Now, I'm willing to take any thoughts about whether that's too long or too short, but I figured I would throw at least a date out there initially.
Let me just suggest first, if we could, maybe talk about the motion on the floor, and then after that we can talk about the process. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Chairman, I would just ask to consider whether I would think we may amend Commissioner Coben's motion to include the time limit before we vote on it, if that's something that the commission wishes to do.
Okay, so, all right, we have a motion and a second. Yeah, I'm sorry, Vernon, go ahead.
So I guess maybe to Ms. Jennings' point, maybe I offer a friendly amendment to the motion, and that would be that I take the motion and just add a timeline of June 30th for the initial interim period.
Okay, that's motion by
Can be extended.
Stafford. Okay, is there a second?
Chairman, this is David. I'd like to speak to that matter.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Richard.
I believe it's premature to set a time for a point since we haven't even found what the process is. And I was interested in moving things along, and I have a similar myself, but again, to set a date at this point is an arbitrary thing. We don't know what the process looks like at this particular point.
Yep, that's a valid point.
I'd like to kind of reiterate David's point. I think that's, although I do believe that timing is really important and interim positions to be in a role for too long becomes a little bit absurd after a period of time. And so the faster we can do and have this sort of search go on, the better off it can be for certainly this commission, but also for all overall internally at THEC. However, on the other side of that is we need to get the right person enrolled. And that I think becomes even more important as opposed to using a time frame to dictate when that is. And so I think there's a balance in it until we go through and identify what that process is. I think it would be hard for us to at least it would be hard for me to agree to a time frame.
Any other comments on Commissioner Stafford's motion to amend? His motion?
I think we had one from Commissioner Coben.
Okay.
So
having a motion.
Chairman
Yes, sir.
Cope,
Yes, sir.
In light of the comments, I don't take any exception to the comments that have been offered. I'm happy to withdraw the amendment and let the initial motion go forward first, and then we can address any timeline.
Great. Okay. Very good. That motion is withdrawn. Commissioner Coben, do you withdraw your second? Did we lose Pam?
Oh, I said absolutely. That's fine.
Oh,
I agree.
Good. Okay. All right. Very good. That motion's withdrawn. We're back on the main motion, which is to appoint Dr. Emily House interim director. Any further discussion on that particular item? Okay. Hearing none, Ms. Jennings, please call the roll.
Chairman Cope,
Aye.
Commissioner Dishner,
Aye.
Commissioner Coben,
Aye.
Commissioner Moser, Commissioner Moser,
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett,
Aye.
Commissioner Stafford,
Aye.
Commissioner Watson,
Aye.
Commissioner Winton,
Aye.
Secretary Hargett,
Aye.
Commissioner Wharton,
Aye.
Comptroller Wilson,
Oh, yes.
Treasurer Lillard,
Aye.
Commissioner Hassler.
Aye.
Chairman, you have 14 ayes. Oh, I'm sorry, you have 13 ayes.
Very good. With 13 ayes, the motion's carried. Congratulations, Dr. Howe. Appointment. So obviously now we need to talk about the process going forward. And as I mentioned at the outset, and I frankly, I don't know whether we need a motion to do this or not, but I prefer to have one. I'd like to ask Tara Scarlett, I think she's willing, to think through this and come back at the January with some thoughts and a recommendation on what a process would look like. And I assume, Tara, that may also include a scope of time as well.
I think that is it's right to consider that.
So comments and thoughts on that proposal.
Mr. Chairman, this is Trey Hargett. I'm kind of curious where HR inside THEC fits into this. I mean, when I've been part of other agencies in state government and that had boards connected to them, it seems to me that the HR division has taken somewhat of a lead in gathering information from other states and in processes. What do we envision is going to be THEC HR's director's role in this?
That's a great question. I would think, and I may let Commissioner Scarlett speak to this, but I would think that she would meet with the staff and talk through that. I don't know the answer to your question, Mr. Secretary, and I don't know if there's staff on the line that might be able to comment on that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
When the legislation was passed that, I assume that's how it happened, when the executive director of THEC no longer reported to the governor, they reported to the commission. That is the way the organization structure exists now. They work at the pleasure of the commission, so the commission would clearly be the hiring body. I can imagine that Commissioner Scarlett might want to consult with HR and collect information, documentation, but it is the commission's decision.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mayor.
First of all, I don't see how this body can get into the minutia of all of the details. I think we should end with the sense of the body being that whoever we designate to do this, to do so in accord with all appropriate laws, regulations, and procedures. We just can't do this knowing how state hiring works. So many times you'll have a law that says one thing and a private act that says something else. It would not be wise, in my humble opinion, to try to graft any more details onto this. Let's set the date of the January meeting for the commission to receive a report on what the procedures are, and we then adopt those procedures as to how we will proceed to fill this position.
Thank you, Mayor. Other comments?
If I could follow up.
Sarah Morrison, just a quick point of reference in terms of my experience at the state board and sort of a similar setup reporting to a board. You know, a couple things to think about. I mean, I think if Tara were connected with the HR director at THEC, that would probably be all that's necessary, to the mayor's point, in terms of just having access and support from the HR department on any of the intricacies of state government and the hiring practices. We don't need to go into all of that today, certainly, but there are some things that the HR director probably can help with. And then I think the only other thing I was wondering is, you know, do you all as commissioners want to have a subcommittee in addition to Tara for purposes of interviewing and all of that, if it comes to that, or maybe that's part of what Tara would report in January. But in my experience, sometimes it's helpful to have a couple other commissioners appointed to be part of the interview process. Potentially.
Mr. Chairman, that should come back to us in January. That gives sufficient time to come back to us and say, this order requires this law requires this, and we move being fully informed as to any factors, rules, or regulations which may impact the process. We just don't know right now. And I say this, if after this meeting, other commissioners think of points that they feel should be researched, that we do so immediately, so that by the time the meeting rolls around, we'll be able to receive a complete report. Recommendation.
This is Tara. Can I just add a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
So a couple of things. One is, you know, assuming you all want me to take this on, partnering with the HR lead at THEC would be a mandatory to move forward. I think that's really, really important as we continue to go down this pathway. Number two, this is one of the most important jobs I see any sort of board to have, is to ensure that we've got the right person leading the organization that we're governing. And I think that it's really important that all of us are aligned on what direction we want to go. As I understand it, there's been so few executive directors of THEC over the past 30, 40 years. We need to make sure that we have the right person in role. And I do believe that we have a great candidate internally. My big question, and part of this is just being new to this team, is where do we want to be 10 years from now, 15 years from now? If we have only had a few executive directors over the past multiple decades, we need to look out 2030, 2035. What is the vision that we have? What sort of leader do we want? How do we want to jump forward as a state in higher education or not? And I think those are some questions that would be important as we start to fine tune the type of individual we want to have leading this organization. And with that comes the working together, certainly forming a subcommittee as we go down this pathway. To Sarah's point, I think is really important. This is probably one of the more important decisions that we could make in our tenure.
Thank you, Commissioner Scarlett. Other comments or questions?
Chairman Cope, I just wanted to confirm that Commissioner Scarlett would have access to, HR staff at THEC and any other staff she required.
Great. Other comments? Okay. Hearing none, and Ms. Jennings, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would move in that we request that Commissioner Scarlett explore this process for us and present to us at the winter quarterly meeting a recommendation in terms of a selection process for the executive director position. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion on this question?
Chairman and Cope, I believe you've got Commissioner Moser trying to comment.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
During this interim period, are we going to try to look at other applicants or wait for a later date to do that?
That's a great question. I think, at least speaking from my perspective, I think that would be something that we would want Commissioner Scarlett to comment on when she comes back at the winter quarterly meeting. I don't know that we can do much in between now and then, but that's just my thought.
Okay, I was just curious whether or not it's evidently House has done a great job in where she's been. And I think it would seem to me that we need to give her an opportunity to decide whether she's the one for the job or not. And I was just curious about it, as to which way we were going.
Well, I think those are good points. And one thing I'll kind of reiterate, I think what someone else mentioned, Commissioner Scarlett, but I did a little bit of research, at least with the help of staff, in terms of selecting an executive director from a historic perspective. We've not done this as a commission since the mid 1980s. So we're all really sort of through this process and how to handle it the best way we can, what's in the best interest of the state and of the higher education institutions of the state. So we really, and I don't mean this tongue in cheek, but we really have sort of a blank canvas in terms of making this process look like what we want it to look like. So I don't know that we're really bound by anything other than the executive director serves at our pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I happened to be there the last time we did this. It was not good. This is the better way of doing it. We're being very deliberate. So I again request that we move on as has been suggested, and do not launch anything until after the January meeting. That leaves everything open.
Thank you, Mayor. That's a great point. And we're really glad you're here too. All right, we have a motion and a second, I think. Is that right, Ms. Jennings?
That's right. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Are we ready to call the question, or do we want to have more discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question.
Chairman Cope,
Aye.
Commissioner Dishner,
Aye.
Commissioner Coben,
Aye.
Commissioner Moser,
Aye.
Commissioner Scarlett,
Pass.
Commissioner Stafford,
Aye.
Commissioner Watson,
Aye.
Commissioner Winton,
Aye.
Secretary Hargett,
Aye.
Commissioner Wharton,
Aye.
Comptroller Wilson,
Aye.
Treasurer Lillard,
Aye.
Commissioner Hassler.
Aye.
Chairman, you have 12 ayes and 1 abstention.
Very good. That motion carries as well. That concludes, we're at the end of our business. I'll just mention one other thing. I think I probably speak for all of us. I know I do when I say that we want to find some way to honor Mike Krause at one of our next meetings, and that's probably something that we should discuss at our winter meeting in January, maybe with an aim to inviting Mike back to our May meeting and find some way to honor him for the years and the dedication to the higher education system of the state. I think he needs to be honored for that. So I know we can have a larger discussion about that when we meet in person in January, but I did want to mention that. Is there anything else anybody else would like to mention for the good of the order? Okay, hearing none, I will declare the meeting adjourned. Look forward to seeing everybody in January, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.
Happy holidays, everybody. Take care.
Happy holidays.